Welcome back to Pigskin Perspectives. Wild card weekend is over, which means 6 teams have advanced to the divisional round. 6 teams are partying in Cancun. Welcome into Pigskin Perspectives. I'm your host, as always, Nick Burt, ready to recap what was a very interesting wild card weekend. Some results you saw coming from a mile away, some results just boggled the mind. With that being said, let's get straight into this. And we're going to rip the Band-Aid off early. With the first game of the playoffs being the Houston Texans defeating the Cleveland Browns 45-14. Yeah. Yeah. I said on Thursday, I said, this is going to be a completely different game than what happened 3-4 weeks ago on Christmas Eve. It's going to be a completely different game. CJ Stroud was playing. Will Anderson was playing. Texans were a lot healthier than they were against the Browns on Christmas Eve. Now, did I see 45-14 coming? Absolutely not. I figured this would be like a 35-28 game. The Browns' offense just seemed like they couldn't get going at all on Saturday. It didn't help that their defense just didn't truly really show up. But, I mean, they got a few stops here and there. Just didn't end up being anything. Joe Flacco throwing 2 pick sixes, just brutal. That was truly the straw that broke the camel's back in the third quarter, I believe it was. And they were on back-to-back drives, and the game was over after that. It's a disappointing season for the Browns, given all the circumstances around it. It's successful. It feels like this was a time for the Browns to just make a run out of nowhere. They had the team to do it. They just didn't show up against Houston. Houston, I mean, I got to give my credit to them. They were by far the better team in this game. And they look really good. They're getting hot at the right time. They're going to have a difficult game next week against Baltimore, but they're getting hot at the right time. They got the right players. They're still very young. I still believe that the Texans are one of the better teams in the AFC right now, but they may be number 4 out of 4 of what we have remaining. But a disappointing end for the season for the Browns. And that's really the best way I can put it. It's a disappointing end to I'll say it was a disappointing season because of all the injuries. Just not great. The Saturday night game exclusively on Peacock, which ended up turning out 27 million viewers, which was, according to NBC, the highest streamed thing ever in the United States, which, okay. The Kansas City Chiefs dominate this game start to finish. They won 26-7 over the Miami Dolphins. There was truly no surprise here. The Dolphins aren't good against teams above 500. Chiefs are above 500, and a Miami team playing in negative 27-degree wind chill, it was never going to work out. Tua just looked awful out there. It was never going to end well for Miami. And here we are sitting here as they are eliminated from the playoffs. Another disappointing season for them, I'd say. They have a lot of talent to go far. It's just it never comes to fruition. On paper, this team should be at least AFC East division winner. But, I mean, they choked down the stretch. The Bills got hot at the right time. And Miami, of course, loses that crucial AFC East title decider. They end up having to go to Kansas City, and we end up here, and they lost basically by 20. Disappointing season for the Dolphins. And then the Chiefs, they move on to the next round. We'll get to their opponent in a minute. Moving on to Sunday, it was the NFC that took center stage because the 1 o'clock game, which was the Buffalo-Pittsburgh game, got moved to Monday afternoon due to the snow conditions in Orchard Park. It was believed that it was the best decision for the fans not to be traveling during that. So that game got moved to Monday. So we got 3 double headers in a row. So to kick off Sunday, it was the Packers going down to Jerry's World to face off against the Cowboys, the number 2 seed Cowboys. You know, how about them Cowboys? That's what the Cowboys did on Saturday afternoon as they lose 48-32. And this game was... The score makes it look like it was a bit closer. It was never truly that close. Jordan Love, what a game from him. That was just a peak, breakout performance. Even though he's had a few of those this year, this was that moment where everybody's kind of watching because it's the playoffs. They see him do that and they're like, oh no, the Packers got their franchise quarterback again, 3rd time in a row. This was just an outstanding performance on all 3 sides of the ball for the Packers. Offense, defense, special teams all stepped up in this game. All just looked amazing. They move on. They'll face the 49ers because the Packers were the last team to get in, so they were obviously going to be the lowest seed remaining. So they would face the 49ers no matter what. And for the Dallas Cowboys, wow, what do you do now? You haven't been to the NFC Championship since 1993, I believe, which means you haven't won a divisional game since 1993. I believe you've only been to the divisional round 2-3 times in that time frame, maybe. I know one of them was last year, but still. I mean, we saw it coming. The Cowboys do this every year, and they just absolutely collapse in a prime slot in the playoffs, just absolutely collapse. And it's funnier and funnier every year. I truly don't know what you do if you are the Cowboys here. I don't know if you consider firing Mike McCarthy. I personally, given that it is Jerry Jones, I do believe that Mike McCarthy most likely probably would get fired. Now, given that we are 48 hours past the game, I know Jerry doesn't like to make rash decisions, but I feel like we're starting to fall out of the time frame where a Mike McCarthy firing would be announced. Now, I'm not saying it's out of the realm of possibility yet. I just feel as more and more time goes on, the more and more likely it is that he's going to be back next year, and we'll be doing this again next year. Now, he only has 1 year left on his contract, so factoring that in next year might look a little different. But I also don't know what you do at the quarterback position. I do not know if Dak Prescott continues to be the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys. I truly don't. He has proven himself time and again, can't win in the big games. Proven time and again. This is just the latest case. I know Fox was pushing a narrative on the broadcast that he and CeeDee Lamb are not getting along right now. If that's true, I don't know, but feel like that might play a big factor in, if you stay on as quarterback or not, if you can't get along with your number one wide receiver. Just saying. Another Cowboys collapse. And even though they were the 2 seed, you kind of felt it coming because the Packers were kind of hot coming into this week. They've been playing playoff games for the past 2 to 3 weeks, just trying to get into the playoffs. So that momentum was going to keep rolling. And I will say, I don't think anybody expected it to be this big of a domination, but it ended up being that way. And the Cowboys were sent packing off to the offseason once again for what seems like the 15th consecutive time in a row, even though it's more than that. Sunday night game was the game full of storylines. It was the Rams and the Lions in Detroit. Matthew Stafford returning to the place he called home for the first 12 years of his career. Jared Goff going up against the team that traded him away to get Matthew Stafford. You have the Lions hosting their first playoff game since 1993. It was just full of storylines. The Lions team very much exceeded expectations this year. Rams team kind of a little bit out of nowhere. I know a lot of people didn't expect them to be this good. Kind of felt like it was still a building down stage. Instead, they built back better, I guess. I don't know. Puka Nacua, just a great draft pick this year. Ends up being a crucial part of their offense. But it was the Detroit Lions walking away with a 24-23 victory. Their first playoff win since 1991. It was pandemonium at Ford Field. Even though the Lions tried to give this game away so many times, they still walk away with the victory. And, I mean, that is the biggest thing here. The Lions walked away with victory. We shouldn't be focusing in on them trying to blow it multiple times. But I felt like the game was decided. It was, I want to say, beginning of the fourth quarter. It might have been close to mid-fourth quarter. The Rams were down 24-20, fourth down. I think it was like 4th and 5 or something like that. And they decided to kick the field goal instead of go for it. So the field goal was good, made it 23-24. I said, that probably just cost the Rams the game because I guarantee either team doesn't score again. Look what happens. Just in those situations, I don't get why you're not going for it. You are getting 3 isn't doing much for you. You're still going to have to get a touchdown again. I know theoretically it could have been, now we're only down by 1. We get the ball back, go down the field, kick a field goal, win the game, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, possibly. But a touchdown is more safe there winning-wise than a field goal is because you don't even know if you were going to get the ball back. Obviously, they ended up doing that. I thought that cost the Rams the game. You got to go for it in that situation, and they didn't. They kicked the field goal, and it didn't work out well. They end up losing. So the Lions, given the Dallas loss, the talk was, a few weeks ago when the Lions lost to Dallas on the controversial penalty. Well, the Lions just lost another home playoff game. What are we going to do now? Well, there you go. The Cowboys lost, so you get another home playoff game. Obviously, the question was, who would the Lions be facing? That was going to be decided on the Monday night game. But before we got to the Monday night game, we had to do that Sunday afternoon makeup game on Monday afternoon. And it was the Bills getting a 31-17 victory over the Steelers. The Bills continue. I mean, they're 5-0 in their last 5, I believe. 6-0 in their last 6. Something around there. I mean, the Bills have gotten hot at the right time. The question is, Can they keep it going for 3 more games? There's the off chance that out of the last 3 games of the season, 2 of them are going to be at home, and the third would be a neutral site. They just got to keep momentum going, basically. Like I said, they've been a very good team these past few weeks. Josh Allen has just figured it out again. Beginning of the season, he didn't look like his normal self. He's back to looking like his normal self, and the Bills are back to looking like that team that we've seen in previous years. And now here we are. They're moving on to the divisional round. Who will they be facing? Only a team they've seen 3 of the last 4 playoff years. That is the Kansas City Chiefs. But the difference here is this game's going to be in Orchard Park, not in Arrowhead. Patrick Mahomes going on the road in the playoffs for the first time in his career. Can Josh Allen, get rid of all those demons against the Kansas City Chiefs with a home game? Can they figure it out? Can they finally get that victory over the Chiefs? And can they finally take that next step to a possible Super Bowl for Buffalo? We're going to find out next week. The Steelers, though, it was a overachieving season because this team looked awful most of the year. They still snuck into the playoffs somehow. Mike Tomlin was asked at the end of his press conference, he only has 1 year left. Is he, stepping down? He didn't answer the question. He walked away, but it was reported today that he talked to the team. He said he's coming back next year. So Mike Tomlin will be back. It seems like the Steelers are going to move some pieces around, and hopefully they end up being a better team next year because this season they were just awful to watch. Now, of course, as a Browns fan, I don't want them to be good, but for the competitiveness, I'd like them to be a bit better. Even I know they made the playoffs, but still. And then finally, the Monday night game, it was a Philadelphia Eagles team that has looked awful the past month. They're, I believe, 1-5 coming into this game in their last 6. Going up against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who also haven't looked great in the past month. They've looked better than the Eagles, but they haven't looked great. And at home, in a playoff game, Baker Mayfield led the Buccaneers to victory, a 32-9 victory, as the Eagles offense couldn't get anything going all night, and the Eagles defense definitely looked like a Matt Patricia project, even though Matt Patricia's only been coaching that defense for 5 weeks. I still don't know what led Matt Patricia to become the defensive coordinator for the Eagles, but that is definitely a factor in why they just turned out to be awful this past month. He cannot coach. He is just not good at it. Schematically, not great. He had good players on the field, couldn't play for him basically. And it cost him the game and it cost him their season. It might cost Nick Sirianni his job. Jalen Hurts looked awful. The tush-push got stopped multiple times last night. It may officially be dead. Jason Kelce, though, calls it a career. One of the greatest centers in NFL history calls it a career. Former Cincinnati Bearcat, legend of the game. Is going to be sad to see him go. But the Buccaneers move on. A unbelievable scene. If you would have told this to me in November that an NFC South team would be beating the Eagles in the playoffs, wouldn't have believed it. So the Buccaneers move on. They will be going to Detroit to face off against the Lions. That's definitely going to be a matchup. That we already saw those two play earlier this year. I believe 2 of the 4. I don't think the Texans and the Ravens played this year. Actually, they might have. I'm pretty sure the 49ers and Packers didn't play. I know the Chiefs and Bills played, and I know the Bucks and Lions played. So we got a few rematches mixed in this divisional round. So it's going to be an interesting time ahead for the NFL. So given that, that's going to wrap up this wild card preview of Pigskin Perspectives. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you just stumble across it, hit like, hit subscribe. Thank you for clicking on it. We will be back on Thursday to preview the divisional round. As we said, we got some interesting matchups. It is Ravens, Texans, I believe, kicking us off on Saturday afternoon. Then it is 49ers, Packers on Saturday night. Lions, Buccaneers kick us off Sunday afternoon, and then Sunday night or Sunday evening, because I don't think it's technically a night game, is that Bills Chiefs game. So we will be previewing all of that on the upcoming episode of Pigskin Perspectives. So make sure you tune into that. And thank you once again so much for watching. We will see you then.